Ladies and gentlemen, this, along with the video on Mark Meltzer, has been a highly requested video for you guys that you wanted me to make. And you've mentioned this a lot. So, I'm going to give it to you guys today, and I'm feeling generous because I want to start doing a lot more lore videos, behind the scenes videos of Bioshock, stuff like that, and just expand the content in general. And I also obviously want to please as many of you guys as possible. So today we will be looking and taking a in-depth dive, no pun intended, at the story of Augustus Sinclair. I really do hope you guys are going to enjoy this one, so sit back, grab some popcorn, grab a snack, grab a cold beverage, and I hope you guys enjoy. Augustus Sinclair, Esquire, was one of the key figures in Rapture's science community, as well as a prominent businessman. His business, Sinclair Solutions, was one of the most important plasmid researching companies in Rapture, and he is a significant character in Bioshock 2, guiding Subject Delta to Eleanor Lamb. Sinclair was born in Panama some years before 1914. His grandfather worked on the Panama Canal and believed that he was doing a service for the greater good. The drowning of his grandfather as a result of this effort impressed upon Sinclair the idea that only worthwhile efforts were self-serving. Sinclair eventually moved to Georgia in the United States with the hope of striking it rich by his own business endeavors. With southern charm and business savvy, Sinclair made a name for himself and attracted the attention of industrialist Andrew Ryan. When Ryan created Rapture, Sinclair took the invitation out of a desire to further his own gain. Sinclair eventually became one of Rapture Society's top men, with his creation of several successful businesses. In the early days of Rapture's construction, when the original sinker platform was moored in the ocean floor, the men working on the foundation discovered an enormous cavern in the bedrock. Sinclair saw the possibilities in such a discovery and purchased the rights to that space, which no one else wanted. He then paid off the few people who knew to forget that that cave had ever been found. Through further exploration, Sinclair discovered that the cave system extended out into a cliff at the edge of the oceanic trench. It was here that Sinclair later built Persephone, the headquarters of his business empire, Sinclair Solutions. The Persephone Penal Colony, the Persephone Correctional Facility, and the Persephone Detention Facility were built here. When Andrew Ryan and the City Council imprisoned people considered a danger to Rapture, they were held in Persephone by Sinclair. Many were removed from public record. To make Persephone pay for itself, Sinclair rented out inmates for plasmid testing at Fontaine Futuristics and later Ryan Industries. They became test subjects for plasmids and gene tonics, and later for the creation of the first Alpha Series Big Daddy. Sinclair allowed inmates the option to purchase special treatment and more comfortable accommodations, advertisements for comfier beds, and products of Failsafe Industries on the prison walls, enticing inmates to purchase premium accommodations available from your Sinclair Solutions catalog. Over the years, Sinclair's businesses expanded into a wide variety of markets. He was especially proficient at profiting by giving work to poor residents at Pauper's Drop. Sinclair Toys produced inexpensive toys using cheap labor, which were sold to shop owners such as Silas Bantam and Ryan Amusements. Sinclair would sell a box of unassembled syringe parts to down and out residents in the drop, like Elliot Nelson, have them assemble the syringes, and buy back the finished product at twice the price. Nelson believed that Sinclair was a fool. Sinclair then sold the syringes onto Ryan Industries to make a profit. Sinclair also built and owned the Sinclair Deluxe, an quote-unquote affordable tenement hotel in Pauper's Drop, literally under the tracks of the Atlantic Express. Sinclair gave his tenants a discount at his chain of liquor stores, Sinclair Spirits, thus gaining their regular custom over his competitors. Personally, Andrew Ryan despised Sinclair for his business strategies, but they remained close business associates. Ryan used Sinclair as a go-to problem solver for issues with dissidents. When Sophia Lamb's influence over her patients became a problem, Ryan hired Sinclair to find a reason for her to be imprisoned. To accomplish this, Sinclair hired a Rapture Tribune reporter, Stanley Poole, whom he paid not to publish anything negative about him, as a spy to infiltrate the Rapture family. Poole eventually gathered enough evidence to convict, and Lamb was taken to Persephone, where Sinclair employed her psychiatric expertise to make inmates more docile. This eventually backfired on him. Lamb became influential enough with the inmates that she sparked a rebellion, ousting Sinclair from the facility and taking complete control of Persephone. Outside of Persephone, the civil unrest intensified, leading up to the Rapture Civil War. During this time, Sinclair was involved in the creation of the Vita Chamber, as evidenced in Yi Suchong's audio diary of the same name. Working for Ryan Industries, Sinclair profited from the confrontation between Andrew Ryan and Atlas by conducting a consumer rewards testing program of plasmids field clinical trials. Citizens had a chance to test home defense products such as the Aerodash and Geyser Trap plasmids. Sinclair even hired convicted criminals to test his projects, such as Louis McGrath from Persephone, offering the promise of release. Sinclair was indifferent to which side the combatants supported, saying that was their own business as long as they tested his products. After Sophia Lamb assumed control of Rapture, Sinclair stayed alive and eventually hid himself in Ryan Amusements. He became a valuable ally to Bridget Tenenbaum. He planned to use her allegiance to help him reach his lifeboat in Persephone and escape to the surface along with several of Rapture's technologies that would ensure his financial success there. Sinclair is introduced to Subject Delta over the radio after Tenenbaum leaves him in the Atlantic Express workshops. Sinclair is hiding in Ryan Amusements, and he asks Delta to take the train to the theme park in order to clear out the wall of ice that blocks his further progress to Persephone. Within Ryan Amusements, he guides Delta through the process of adopting little sisters and gaining the Incinerate plasmid. He then joins Delta on the train after the ice has been melted. During their journey together, Sinclair gives Delta many tips that help him to overcome obstacles or understand parts of Rapture's history. Sinclair seems to trust Delta as a worthy partner and claims that he will take Delta with him to the surface. He doesn't try to hide his moral biases, and he often advises Delta to make choices for the greatest personal benefit, such as harvesting little sisters. However, he never second-guesses Delta's actions, recognizing that the choice is ultimately up to him. In Siren Alley, Sinclair shows outright trust towards Delta when Simon Wales destroys their train with a torpedo, leaving Sinclair trapped in Dionysus Park with finite air reserves, where he is reliant on Delta to drain the park and save him. Although he is close to running out of air, he still advises Delta to be ready before draining the park and saving him. When Delta and Sinclair finally reach Persephone, Sinclair loses radio contact with Delta and disappears for some time. When Delta is trapped by Sophia Lamb and forced to control a little sister with the help of Eleanor in order to escape, Lamb orders the Rapture family to cease all activities until Sinclair is found. When Delta and Eleanor Lamb finally escape together, they discover that Lamb has sealed all bulkheads in Persephone and has given the key to Sinclair, whom she had captured and turned into the last of the Alpha series, codenamed Subject Omega, as a psychological assault on Delta. However, Sinclair retains his intelligence and his voice since Lamb left his larynx unaltered in order to force the bomb codes out of him. Although his actions are controlled by Lamb, and against his free will, he can still speak and think for himself. With little of his human self left, that small remainder wanted to be free from his changed state, and so he does his best to help Delta. Sinclair locks himself inside the prison watchtower, forcing Delta to sneak his way in or learn the code. Sinclair radios Delta, telling him not to blame himself for ending his life. Sinclair justifies this by saying that he has accepted his death on the terms that Delta will stick it to Lamb and let young Eleanor see the sun. With Sinclair's help, Delta finally manages to confront him in the room, and after a battle, he ultimately ends up killing Sinclair. With his last words, Sinclair thanks Delta for ending his warped existence. If Delta is a harvester, Eleanor will be indifferent to Sinclair's death. But if Delta is a savior, she will feel sympathy for Delta and tell him to be ready before taking the key. Augustus Sinclair has roughly 2.5 times the amount of health of an average Alpha Series Big Daddy, roughly as much health as the bouncer or Rosie Big Daddies encountered earlier in the game. He is also equipped with a grenade launcher and a hacked security bot. However, Sinclair retains the Alpha Series' vulnerability to headshots and is therefore noticeably easier to terminate. The room he locks himself in also has many different access points, traps, and hazards to allow the player to catch him off guard. The player can drive Sinclair out of the room he's locked in by crawling through the vent and lighting up the oil puddle with Incinerate. Deploying a turret inside the room will also open the door automatically. It is possible to hypnotize Sinclair in alpha form by charging up to level 3. Unfortunately, he cannot be persuaded to give up his key, but will have green eyes, follow the player, and fight nearby enemies. If the player sticks several proximity mines to Sinclair while he's hypnotized, they'll either kill him or badly weaken him. While in this state, it is recommended to fire several spears, both standard and the rocket, into his head. If the middle of the battle comes, this plasmid can also be used to pause the encounter, giving the player time to reload and restock on ammunition and health. One of the fastest and most effective ways of dealing with Sinclair is to use the Summon Eleanor plasmid. Eleanor will basically do all of the work, and one can speed up the process by shooting Sinclair with a powerful weapon such as the machine gun, shotgun, or launcher. Freezing Sinclair / Subject Omega with Winter Blast and firing a heat-seeking rocket will also shatter and kill him almost instantly. Like all major enemies and bosses, Sinclair does not shatter from the effects of Winter's Blast. More effective still, the player can choose to plant around half a dozen proximity mines next to the door of the security office before entering the door via the code and retreating, which will kill several. More effective still, the player can choose to plant around half a dozen proximity mines near the door of the security office before entering the door and retreating, which will kill or severely damage Sinclair the moment he emerges from the room. On at least the easiest difficulty, untested on higher, the security bot in Sinclair's room is deactivated and can be hacked by crawling through the maintenance tunnel. It will immediately attack Sinclair, forcing him from the room. He will then run into an adjacent room where a gun turret is located. If this turret is more effective still, the player can choose to plant around half a dozen proximity mines next to the door of the security office before entering the door and retreating, which will either kill or severely damage Sinclair the moment he emerges. On the least easiest difficulty, untested on the higher difficulties of course, the security bot inside Sinclair's room is deactivated and can be hacked by crawling through the maintenance tunnel. It will immediately attack Sinclair, forcing him from the room. He will then run into an adjacent area where a gun turret is located. If this turret itself has been hacked, the 1-2 punch of the security bot and the turret can result in Sinclair being killed very rapidly without Delta or even Eleanor needing to do anything like fire a shot. As the final Alpha Series, Subject Omega, Sinclair has weaponry and armor similar to the other Alpha Series. His main weapon is a standard launcher, unlike playable Alpha Series like Delta and Sigma. Sinclair's suit is also designed differently than others Alpha Series, painted black and silver. He is much more heavily armored than Delta, able to withstand as much damage as standard bouncers, and Omega's symbols are very visible on his hands, indicating he was the final Alpha series created. So guys, I'm actually going to do something for the first time on one of these videos, that being the lore videos. I'm going to take all of the audio diaries from Augustus Sinclair, put them in chronological order, and actually allow him to partially tell his story from his own perspective. If you guys want to see this in the future, let me know. Or if you want me to continue editing the videos like I did in the Mark Meltzer video, please let me know down in the comment section below. Anyways, Augustus Sinclair, take it away, sir.
Andrew Ryan. He reckoned the free market was some kind of Holy Spirit gonna lead us all over the rainbow. And I reckon it's a big fat hooker too dim to spot a wooden nickel. So old Andy went and became his own ghost, and I whittled nickels till I made a mint. Old Papa's Drop's the worst neighborhood in Rapture, but it's a hell of an opportunity to raise up some affordable housing. When Atlantic Express was constructing their luxury passenger line, this place was hollowed out beneath as flop houses for the railway crew. Nobody was supposed to reside down here long term, but when you're broke in this town, you're not exactly swimming in alternatives. I don't favor spending more than an hour or so down here at a time. There ain't a side of the tracks more wrong than under 'em. Now, I'm a modest man, but my piecemeal needle scam's an outright masterpiece. Some slob shacked up here buys a box of syringe parts from me for twice what it's worth. He assembles them in his rat hole, and I buy back the finished product for a dime against the dollar that I'll get from Ryan. Profit coming, profit going. Old Andy rambles on about the great chain. I got people shelling out to pull it for me. I do love Siren Alley, the kind of place you go to scratch an itch you're ashamed of, even in a town with no laws. But that's not why I favor it. The place started out as the Mason's Quarter, all builders and architects, proper as you please. And it just tickles me when someone in a fancy hat falls in the mud. Like a lot of the ladies down here, Siren Alley was born with a more respectable name, but only God remembers what it was. Persephone, secret home of Sinclair Solutions. I bet against Andy Ryan's vision of harmony and rapture, offered him a quiet place to send anybody who wasn't working out, and now I'm sitting on my own private think tank. Technically, Utopia shouldn't have much use for a detention facility, but if you do business as long as I have, well, you learn to pick a brand name from the writing on the wall. Things aren't so rosy for Lamb's little collective farm down here, no matter how much influence she's got with the inmates. She keeps feeding Ryan more and more of her people for the Big Daddy program in order to keep the rest of her flock alive. I think she's getting desperate. I ought to have Weir double the orderlies on all the major junctions. I hear often, "Mr. Sinclair, you just got a heart of stone. Don't you want to share with your fellow man?" And I tell him, listen, I hail from sunny Panama, and my granddaddy, he got himself drowned building the big ditch. Went on and on about doing it for the people, for the world entire. Well, not for me, thank you. I came to Georgia to strike it rich, and Rapture all the more so. You won't catch me blowing my last bubble for any other personage, plural or singular. Sophia Lamb's had her eye on Rapture for years, and now she's got it. She started preaching unity and brotherhood for the downtrodden right here in the drop. This movement springing up around her is almost a kind of old-time religion. Now, these governors Lamb's got in charge would never have seen power in Ryan's day. They're nobodies, really. But I used to raise spaniels, and the only thing meaner than the top dog was the underdog, when he had just plain had enough. If a smart fella wanted to talk some bankrupt fat cat into moving to a slum, he'd call the place a hotel on the nightly. The tenant dries his eyes and tells himself it's only temporary, and the smart fella shaves a dime a day off his drinking wage. Now, a smarter fella might also bankroll the local gin joints and take him for the rest.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the story of Augustus Sinclair. Honestly, he's one of my favorite characters all throughout the Bioshock franchise, and I wish that they would have used him a little bit more instead of just using his voice. I think if he were in the game slightly more, then that would have added an even bigger twist at the end when he's revealed to be Subject Omega. So, let me know what you guys think about that. But anyways, as always, if you guys did enjoy the video, would you kindly drop a like? If not, you can drop a dislike. Just tell me what I can do to make the videos better for you guys. If you're new here and want to join the Rapture family or see the Rapture family grow, would you kindly hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications to never miss a video or a live stream, and feel free to share the video with some family and friends. If you want to watch any of my previous videos, they'll be popping up on the screen now. And also, if you want to follow me on any of my social medias or join my Discord server, that'll be down in the description for you guys to go check out. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this is what you guys wanted because, like I said, you guys have been asking for this for quite a while. And hopefully, I delivered for you guys. So, with that being said, thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Take care.